Welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here. This is number two for me today, not of this show, but I was on a radio show today on BBS Radio. So thank you to Sunshine. She has a wonderful show called Whiplash. I think, yeah, pretty sure it's called Whiplash Talk. And I've been on it actually the past 3 weeks. We've been having some really cool conversations. And so I will provide the link to the archives there. If you want to go check out those shows and listen to what her show is all about, she's got some really awesome episodes, and her show is based around kind of like when we go through hectic things in our lives and upheavals and kind of going, getting whiplash because we're just getting jerked around so hard in life sometimes. And so I've heard her show probably years ago, the first time I heard it. And so I've heard it and I really liked what she was doing and what she was talking about and her story. And so we kind of connected, and I'm really grateful to have gone on her show, as I mentioned, the past 3 weeks. So that's cool. But we're here for foundational healing, Rob. Get to it. Well, you're going to have to put up with me for a few more minutes because I wanted to share a little synchronicity with you guys, as you can see here. Oh, maybe the focus is off on the... Yeah, I had to focus, so it's focused on my face, not on this close. But that is a dirty fortune, and I'll explain to you why I'm going to share that little synchronicity with you today. And I actually wrote a post about it called The Lost Fortune. And years ago, I think probably 2012 or 2013, I was helping a friend move into his house, and so we were, having drinks and whatever in his living room. And it was attached to the dining room or whatever. And so I think the night before or whatever, either that or earlier that day, he'd had Chinese food. So there was fortune cookies sitting on the table, and we were talking about fortune cookies or whatever. And I was sitting on the couch, and we were just joking around and stuff. And he threw me a fortune cookie, and I swatted the fortune cookie out of the air. And I was like, "Fuck off, man!" I'm like, I'm not gonna let a cookie tell me how to live my life. I'm gonna make my own fortune. And he's like, "Fuck off, man." He's like, "Just eat the cookie." And so I'm like, "All right, whatever." So I grab the fortune cookie and I crack it open, and there's no fortune in it. Like, there's no fortune. You can't write this shit. And we start dying laughing just because of what I said. I'm not gonna let the cookie tell me how to live my life. I'm gonna make my own fortune. And so, like, what better time? I don't think I've ever had a fortune cookie without a fortune in it, except for that day. And that's just the way creation works, right? So. That was, and I didn't make a fortune, but it came back in a mysterious way. If you're paying attention to the universe and creation, and in the moment, right? And so that was, years and years ago. And this past summer, there was a day I went out for a motorcycle ride, and it was a day that, something had happened, and I was kind of upset, and things maybe weren't going the way I thought they should be according to my expectations. So I was maybe feeling a little deflated. And as I left out the back gate in my backyard, I was like, "All right, creation, I need a little bit of I need some help on this one. Spirit, bring me a sign, or speak to me in ways that I understand." And so when I got back from my ride, I was bringing my bike back into the backyard, and I look down on the ground, and I see something on the ground, and it's a fortune from a fortune cookie, and the first part's missing. But it's what I gather, and I put two and two together from reading the French side, because the first part of the French side is, or the last part of the French side is cut off, and the first part of the English side is cut off, but it's "your future will be harmonious." And so in French, "Votre avenir sera it's cut off. So I'm going to say harmonieux, or I don't know how it's pronounced in French, probably with an IEUX. But yeah, so "Votre avenir" means your future. Your future will be harmonious. And so my past wasn't always harmonious. So even though there's no such thing as the past or the future, they're uncreated. Well, the past doesn't exist except for in our minds, but the future is not yet created, except for in the dark side universes where everything's already predetermined and you're just following a script. But I'm not doing that anymore, as you can tell, or or at least I'm trying not to. And And so, yeah, my future's going to be harmonious. Thank you. The lost fortune returned. And that was worth more to me than $1 million. Okay, maybe not, but still, spiritually, it was really powerful. But anyways, thank you guys as always for joining the show and my little introduction, bearing with me for my little introduction there. But there's so much more to creation and life and existence and the magic that is unfolding in front of us every moment. Like everything is a miracle. Like not, everybody thinks miracles are these cures and wonderful healings or whatever, or something magical happening. And that's true, those things do happen, and it's wonderful when they do happen. But like even today I went for just a walk in the snow, and coming up the stairs when I got home, I was just like, man, just fucking being here in a body, walking up these stairs is a fucking miracle. Like we forget how crazy everything is because we've become, so sedated and mind controlled into believing that this is all that there is. And even if it was, we kind of lose, because of our physical senses, just how crazy everything actually is. Just creation itself is beautiful. It's a miracle. Everything is a miracle. And so I don't know, it might have been Einstein that said that, there's two ways to live your life. One is as if nothing's a miracle, and then the other way is as if everything's is a miracle. And if you look at it that way, then it becomes a lot more tolerable and magical, and we really allow creation to show up for us, and we see those little things. Like if you're stuck too much in your head, I do my best. I command my spirit to take the thoughts from my head and drop them down into my body, and to be aware and to be conscious of things, not looking for signs, but being aware of the things that show up in the moment, because the light only works in the now. So if you're stuck in your head, it's like the saying kind of rings true. I don't know who said it, but it always stuck with me. If a lot of times in life we spend so much time looking at the closed door, we don't see the open one right beside us. It's like looking at that picture of your ex-girlfriend who hasn't called you for a year, and meanwhile this really beautiful woman is walking by giving you a smile, but you're so stuck in your head in the past that you don't even see what's in front of you there in that moment, right? And so I think that's what getting into your body is, and being present and not in your head is, in the present moment, everything's available to us. It's only our thinking that creates those restrictions, right? How many times have you missed out on opportunities because of your thinking, no, it's not going to work out, I this and that, and you talked yourself out of it before you even started. And I've done that. That's why I keep showing up for this show, even though it hasn't gone the way I wanted it to, and I had to take some breaks. I planned on doing it once a week, and it didn't quite work out like that for one reason or another. And but I'm here, I'm showing back up, and I'm just not stopping, and I'm going to keep going and keep going. And it's the doing. There's no goal. There's no, my goal isn't to get to 100 shows. It's just to do this one here today. And it's the process of doing it that I love doing it. Even if there's only one other person out there listening or watching, and they're like enjoying it or gaining value from it, or resonating with something, or it's just giving them comfort, not knowing that they're not crazy, maybe for something I'm sharing or something I'm saying, that helps us tremendously. It's worth more than any fortune in a cookie could ever be, right? Is knowing that that creation is magical, and that there's other people out there that aren't crazy. Actually, we sound more crazy to the non-crazies than the crazies actually sound to us. Wait, did I say that correctly? Anyways, you know what I'm saying. So without further ado, let's get down to it. Again, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it very, very much, and I do want to be of value and well hydrated as well. All right, let's get down to business. I've been doing Qigong. I don't know if I mentioned that to you guys on the show yet. Very awesome. I've been doing it all summer, and so probably at least 6 months, and beautiful. Just getting just releases in my neck and back and shoulders and ribs and stuff that I wasn't even aware I needed to release. It's one of those things. You don't know what you don't know. All right, so last week, where did we leave off? We were doing, I know I was reading from forthepeople.space. We were doing energetic bodies and ghosts and emotional bodies of discarded discarded emotional bodies of people that have passed on. So, very long article, big topic. I wanted to chop it up because I think the last episode was 45 minutes. And yeah, it's probably would have taken us double that amount of time if I kept going. So today, how did we do it? Content only, as background, over the shoulder, side by side. I think as background is good. I want it to be good so you guys can see it. Skadoosh. All right. I'm still new to this and I don't know what you guys are seeing, but I'm going to assume, oh wait, if I click this little green screen here, I can see what you guys are seeing. And right now we want zoom out of the way, please. Okay. All right, that's what we need to be seeing. And can I minimize that little one? All right, so let's get down to it. I'm going to continue reading this article, as I mentioned, because I think we're just a little past halfway. So emotional bodies, ghosts, entities, from people that have passed on. They're not spirits, but they are, semi-quasi life forms. They do, they're ghosts. They're fucking ghosts. I don't know how else to say it. And most of us can't see them. Some people can. And I know people that have said they could. And I kind of feel bad because at the time I didn't believe them or I didn't believe in them. So it's, it's not an easy topic to to talk to everybody about. But I think the people watching get it. So we're going to keep going here. And so this part is little paw prints here in the snow. Animals also have emotional bodies that are discarded after the spirit and the body leave. So this topic is on animals. Many people see paw imprints in the carpet, on the bed, in the snow, etc. after their pet has passed over. They may hear them walking, purring, barking, drinking water, or eating, because the emotional energy body has a physical presence. The actual spirit of pets and people tend to leave after a few days or sooner, but the emotional energy body of the dead can live on this plane as long as life exists on this planet. They often exhibit the same behavior as the person or animal the emotional body came from. There are YouTube videos of cats barking and dogs meowing, etc., showing animals can also become possessed by the ghosts, or discarded emotional bodies in brackets, of animals who've died. You can clear your pets of entities the same way you clear people, cars, boats, houses, and large areas, etc. And that's going to be, if you don't know how to clear that, I wouldn't suggest doing it yourself, and this article gets into that, because you don't know what you're opening yourself up to. And I didn't know either in the past, and man, you don't want to be dealing with some of that stuff. So let's continue going. And here's a little image of some ghosts in a hallway or something going on. So why do you get the chills when a ghost is near? Because they're siphoning your warmth, life force, and energy. And that sucks. And so maybe, I don't know if you've ever had that feeling, but I sure have, and I didn't know that it was that at the time. So interesting, right? Interacting with ghosts. What most people don't recognize is that the discarded emotional bodies of the deceased can wield tremendous power. One entity could feed on the light of a fighting couple and their crying child for over an hour and come away powered up with the life force from 3 people. So that's, one entity or ghost powering up from, three humans, stealing and siphoning their life force. Some entities go into crowds, war zones, riots, horror movie theaters, etc., and feed on everyone, coming away with more life force than a healthy human. There's almost no space an entity cannot reach. They're all around us most of the time. When they're powerful, they can make themselves visible, audible, tangible, and often they emit a scent. They can impact your thoughts, emotions, and actions if you have very little light or spirit energy present, causing people to think what the entity has projected, say what the entity wants them to say, and do what the entity wants them to do. And I had a very powerful experience with, call it what you want to call it. When I did natal barcode clearing, I heard from my house this loud banging coming from what I can only guess is the chimney. I went where it is. It's kind of the chimney thing from in the closet, and I've never heard that sound in my life in this house before that day or since that day, and it was crazy. And I was like, wow, There was definitely things being tossed out that day. Sorcery. So witches and warlocks have found ways to use entities or ghosts as weapons or subsets working for them. They enhance the entity's powers and basically force them to do their bidding. Often, often it's to curse someone, destroy their life, or haunt them out of their wits. This is no match for a human who has no idea what they're doing, and most humans don't. Hiring someone else to fight back for you can also make things worse in the long run. And so, how do we deal with these pesky fuckers then? Well, let's keep reading because this article speaks specifically about it. So, how to remove entities. Generally, because ghosts are vampiric, they can have a lot more horsepower than humans after feeding. This is nothing to be afraid of, but important to know. If you blast them with thoughts of light you conjure up with your mind, they probably won't feel a thing. Thoughts repel your own spirit, so people actually become weaker spiritually when they blast these energies out of fear or anger, which are emotions from thoughts. If you do have a strong vitality and blast them with life force, it may move them further away, or it may just piss them off. It takes a massive amount of light and spiritual energy to evaporate even one entity. Some people believe they can blast a huge field, a hospital, or graveyard by moving their hand or imagining their light has annihilated everything, and then they wonder why their life starts to go downhill. You don't want to mess with these things if you don't know what you're doing. And then in red, which is always an important part that for the people.space highlights, during spiritual warfare, you want to put your ego aside. And I would totally agree with that because it's easy to let it get the best of you, and then you end up really down the rat hole farther than you ever thought you could slide, and you don't know what's going on, and you don't know why things are happening to you, especially if you don't really believe in this stuff. That's probably even worse than people who do, and the people who do. It doesn't matter actually if you believe in it because it exists. So your beliefs don't really matter to these entities. And so it's probably, sometimes ignorance is bliss, but if you don't believe in it and you wonder why your life's going to hell in a handbasket, you might want to look into this. So even if some people are able of moving them along, it lays the burden on the next person they come across. So unless you hold 80 to 100% light with a lot of spiritual power and the ability to see these energies, it's often best to leave clearing the entities up to the creation lightship. You don't want to injure or torment the entities any more than they already are. Set them free properly. Put them over their misery and protect yourself from backlash. The best way to clear entities is with the creation lightship entity clearing. Run it regularly because there are trillions of ghosts wandering around everywhere, even in the ocean. The creation lightship will take care of them in a compassionate way that only powerful source light can. And so, a lot of times, from what I understand and people I've spoken with, articles I've read, that a lot of these entities, they're not necessarily bad. It's that they're maybe trying to get somebody's attention who holds more light because they want to leave. They're trapped. They're stuck here. They're stuck in a mind loop or a pattern or in some sort of way, right? The body that they inhabited is gone, and so it is, even though they're not true spirits, source spirit energy, it's an energetic body, which is kind of the same. So some people might call them spirits, but they're ghosts, right? They have the entire emotional history, from the person that they lived with and maybe people that they lived with before. And so they're like a semi-quasi energetic life form. And although parasitic, but they might not even understand that what they're doing is bad, or if they're not necessarily evil. They might want to be set free. They might want to go into the light. They just want to, or be merged back with the earth spirit. However that's working and however that's being done, it's not my forte. I don't know exactly the logistics behind it all, but a lot of them want, like it mentions here, the lightship will take care of them in a compassionate way. And so that's the only way to get rid of them, is to heal them. So often, it's no different. I'm doing foundational healing. And like Osho says, I've used this quote on the show before, that, suppression isn't transcendence. And so a lot of times entities need to transcend something, or they need to be healed or overcome something, or, just dealt with in a compassionate way, the way that everybody does. So most of the time, they're no different, right? So the creation lightship entity attachment removal And I'll put the links to this down below, but this is what it looks like. And entity attachments removal, there's a link here as well in the article. So if you're on the article, which I posted, I believe, in the first show, the first part of this show, you can check it out through there. So, and here's a little disclaimer: for the people has no business or financial relationship with the Creation Lightship website. Clearings are promoted because they work and they'll make your life a lot more peaceful. And this is lifetime clearing, so it'll basically clear your entire lifetime from birth up until whatever age you are, and then you can purchase the unlimited version for $50 more, and so you can use it anytime you want to clear out entities. And once you do start getting your spiritual horsepower back, from what I understand, you could have a picture of the light being up and ask them if they want to go to the light and do it and have that being up, because you're probably you want it to be dealt with when there's a clearing going, or you have say you run the Be Here Now clearing and there's a picture of the light being up, and there is a conduit to actual source light, not the light of the darkness, which if you don't know what you're doing, you'll send them there, and it'll probably come back to haunt you even worse, because that's the light of the darkness, not true source energy, right? So continuing on, and this part is in red. If someone you know has passed over, you can use the deceased loved one's spirit clearing to remove their discarded emotional body before it has a chance to suffer. And so this is the deceased loved one's spirit clearing, and another link there as well. And here's a little story I wanted to share about. I don't know if you guys have ever had spiritual experiences or things with ghosts or things that you couldn't quite explain, but I wanted to explain the night that my dad was, the last night he was in the hospital. It was during COVID. Don't want to get into all that. It was kind of obviously a big dramatic thing, because I didn't get so wasn't allowed to go visit him. Except that night, it's like, we're gonna be on the news tonight if you don't let me see my father. So have it your way. One way or another, I'm going to see him. But the last night that he was here, I drove north to Sudbury, which is 4 hours from where I live, and it was in the middle of this rain and ice storm, and really, really crazy. So that night we stayed at a hotel. I went to see him, spent a couple hours with him. The last time I would end up ever seeing him, and so the doctors didn't give him more than a couple days, and so that night we stayed over just to go back and maybe go see him in the morning or whatever. So we stayed in Sudbury overnight, and that night at the hotel we're staying at, there's a crazy ice storm, so freezing rain, and at like 3 a.m. on the button pretty much, the fire alarm goes off at the hotel we're staying at, and so everybody literally at the hotel, we have to go out in the freezing rain, and we're standing outside in the ice and everything, and it was just a very, very weird and time to have a fire alarm out in those conditions, and so that was weird. And my mom and I both look at each other and we're like, we both had the thing. It was like, it's my dad playing a prank on us. Did he pass? And so it turns out he didn't. But maybe his emotional body, or maybe he did kind of cross over and come back during that time. But we wake up in the morning and the alarm goes off again at around 9 a.m. And then I get a call like pretty much right after, and my stepmom says it's my dad, and he just passed. And I was like, wow, like literally probably just at the time that the alarm went off the second time. And so I didn't know too much about this stuff back then, but I always kind of believed in stuff you can't see, and I've had some very spiritual experiences starting at a young age. I don't know if I've shared them on this show, but stuff that just makes us really question our reality and what kind of matrix this is we're existing in, alien generated holographic reality. But so I didn't really know about discarded emotional bodies, and then this kind of confirmed it for me even before I found out about this material. It was the next night. My dad had passed, so that would have been Sunday during the day. Drove back down south, and that night, went to sleep. 4 hours away, different city, Toronto. The alarm goes off again in the building we were staying at, the condo building. Exact same time, 3 a.m. and everybody has to go down and leave the condo. And the time was exactly like, I think it was within 10 minutes, like that's how close it was to the previous night. And so like, what are the odds of that happening? You know, alarms, fire alarms going off at 3 a.m. 2 nights in a row, two separate buildings, two separate cities. And so it was like, okay, I knew it was my dad trying to get my attention, and or his, at least his emotional body. And so at the time, what I did is I got a candle and I put it in the window and played CCR. I forget what the song's called. It's like Follow the Light Home or something like that, you know. And so I was like just telling his spirit or his emotional body to go home. It's time to go home. And so I don't know if that helped or not, but maybe I should do this clearing on him. Anyways, so you can clear your own emotional body before you die with the emotional body clearing. This removes all emotional buildup from your entire life to the point you perform the clearing. If you purchase the unlimited version, you can clear the emotional body regularly, the way the Earth Spirit used to do for us. And so that's a very powerful clearing. I've done it as well. It was like the one that was from what I understand, the time of Jesus, that was the only clearing really that needed to be done because it covered so much stuff. And so Ron always said that if you did one clearing in your life, do that one, because that one would clear so much. Like, everything here is thoughts and emotions, but a lot of it stems from emotions. And so if you could do one clearing, do that one. And it was like the essential clearing, the one that they did in the time of Jesus. The reason there's so many more clearings is because there's so much more crap and technology here, and just things, nanotechnology, and shit's just so sideways here that's why there's so many clearings, because there's so many things gnawing at our consciousness, so much technology, so many off-world extraterrestrial interference. It's just absolutely bananas, and I'm not going to get into all that stuff. But I do want to read the description of the emotional body clearing now that it comes up. I forgot that it was here. So this clearing releases the imprinted energy of your emotional traumas from this lifetime, from your present age all the way back to conception. It is by far the most important healing to do first. It clears the physical, emotional, and spiritual bodies. The light being doctors will eliminate the emotional blockages that you have accumulated throughout your lifetime. Throughout this lifetime, sorry. These negative energies, fears, anxieties, traumas, and judgments imprint into your emotional body, physical and spiritual bodies, and eventually manifest as an imbalance or disease if not released. And so, for some of you out there, if you're just hearing this information for the first time, it might be a little bit out there for you. And trust me, it was for me too when I first started learning the material. And you're going to say, like, light being doctors, what are you talking about? That just sounds bananas. And it will, but you have to understand that we are actually light, and we're being flicked on and off, on and off, on and off. And we seem solid and we seem here all the time. And so it's really difficult to explain, but if you look at the sine wave goes like this, up, and then crosses the line again, down, and crosses the line again. And each time it crosses the line is the 0 point. So that's when you're flicked on, and the top part of the wave is, where it hits the line is where you're flicked off, and then the arc of the wave is where you're manifested, and then off, and then manifested below again, off, on top again. And that's no different than these LED lights. And so just because they look on to us, I don't know if you have slow motion 250 frames or 120 frames per second on your iPhone or whatever. A lot of people's phones these days have very, very very, very slow motion capabilities and slow-mo capabilities. And so I did this test to show somebody that, like, this light looks on to us, but you do 250 frames per second, depending on the frequency flicker rate or whatever of the LED light bulb. You do 250 frames per second, and you turn on your phone, you'll actually see that light flicking on and off. But visually, to our eyes, it looks like it's on the whole time. And that's the same with our bodies. We are at our core made of light. And so the densities of our thoughts, judgments, emotions, and everything, all our DNA, our energetic bodies, make these physical bodies so dense. And that's what we're doing, is removing our DNA restrictions, removing our genetic cellular memory. That's what Jesus was doing. He wasn't healing your sins per se. He was healing your judgments, beliefs. Basically, anytime you were out of the now and not in peace energy, thoughts, emotions, judgments, anger, all that stuff. And so it's a little bit out there, but stick with me, stick with the material, because you're gonna go through periods where it's gonna make sense, and you're gonna be like, yeah, there's something about this that makes sense. And when you're in your heart, you're gonna understand it. But your mind, because of the mind control, the mind's not gonna understand this stuff. And so keep going with it. There's times where you're going to feel like you're going crazy and it doesn't make sense because to your physical senses, it's not going to make sense. But believe me, you're going to start having experiences, and you're going to be like, so I understand what he said now. Sorry, that was my Chinese imitation accent. Um, Anyways, how to keep an entity out of your body and energy field. And we have this beautiful 100% glowing light being. That's probably what our spirit looks like before we came into this dense realm, these very dense bodies. That's what we probably look like, a spark of divine essence within our heart center, just radiating out. So when a body has 100% of its spirit within, no entity could possibly enter or even tamper with it. Our spirit is always our greatest protector against darkness of any kind. And then we have the old graveyard with a list of things that cause your spirit to leave, creating an opening for ghosts, entities, jinn, succubus, demons, etc. And here's a wonderful list of things that I'm going to read that cause us to kick our spirit out of our body, and then we're not running the ship anymore. Something else, or groups of groups or whatever. Who knows what's running, us if our spirit's not in our body. So this is what causes our spirit to leave: overthinking, extreme emotions, pain, pharmaceutical drugs, recreational drugs, alcohol, smoking and vaping, sugar, GMO. This sounds like my entire life up until a few years ago. Vaccines, not those. Stress, definitely. Negative people, oh yeah. Filth, when I was younger. Overworking, overexercising, been there. Low frequency sounds and music, been there too. Heartbreak and trauma, single tear. Illness, self-condemnation, abuse, doing what you hate. Negativity is, have they read my diary? Negativity or low frequency environments, psychopaths and narcissists, lack of movement, jeez. Depression, apathy, I've done all these. Lack of nutrition, cold energy, so cold water, cold food, cold drinks, cold people, extended time in cold rooms and buildings, severe exposure to cold or harsh weather. Why do I live in Canada? I think that in future the technology is going to come out, and I think Canada, I think pretty much from what I understand, that I learned one time on a CLS show, was that the Earth Spirit never created seasons. So the seasons are dark side energies to create duality, and so maybe the original Earth, there was no winter. So maybe there's, in the future, before ascension, if we get a chance to experience what the Earth would be like without darkness, maybe Canada is tropical. Who knows, right? So those are all things. You can go check out that list again. All things to avoid, which kick our spirit out of our body. And when our spirit leaves our body, we have to command it back to us. We have to stop doing those things. We have to do clearings. We have to do commands, doing the inner work, going back and, even writing things out, timeline clearing and crashing. You can either do the clearings from the CLS website, or you can do it the old way, going in and writing it on paper and asking your spirit to release the emotional charge from it. The CLS clearings are a real quick way to get up to speeds. If you're low on spirit energy, go do those clearings if you have the means. The whole point is to get you up to, if you get up to 80, 100%, you're clipping. You're going to start be able to, your commands are going to work. Unless you have a real bad, traumatic experience, or something really bad happens to you and you get kicked down, knocked down the ladder, so to speak, and you have to rebuild your spiritual energy. But if you get up there naturally, your commands will work, because at our essence, there's no spiritual hierarchy. We're all the same as the masters. It's just that they cleared out their genetic cellular memory and their densities, and their bodies held 100% light. And so you can get there too. You just have to do a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And if I told you how many hours of work I did, it wouldn't seem so glamorous. And I'm still doing the work, And if I was 100% light, I wouldn't be here. So I'm not, and I'm here working on myself and doing my best to, just show other people that it takes a long time. So, and just be, help them along the way. Stand, a saying me and my buddy used to have when we were drinking back in the days, it was a cheers: never above you, never below you, always beside you. And that's how it is with Source, and that's how it is with me. So I'm here beside you along the journey, and so anybody who's doing it, if you have questions, trust me, there's no such thing as a silly or stupid question. I used to think that was the case, and over the past few years, I've realized shit's way more bananas than you could ever imagine. So no silly questions. Don't be afraid to ever reach out. And I think I forgot. I'm gonna start putting an email address on the shows in case people don't want to comment and they want to reach out to me directly. I understand that a lot of people like to be anonymous, and I understand their reasoning for that, especially when you learn about all this crap. Okay, so anyways, enough chit chat. Let's get to things. The cure, things to increase our frequency and invite more of our spirit inside. And I don't know necessarily if it's increasing frequency. I guess you could say that in a sense. Frequency would make sense to me. But people saying raise your vibrations, high vibes, that does not make sense. You can't raise your vibration. You are a vibration. You have a specific frequency and resonant frequency that your spirit and body, resonate to. Your spirit and your body, your voice, and that's how your body recognizes, your spirit recognizes your body and everything. So frequency, I'd agree with raising your frequency. Maybe that's how fast your light flickers, type of thing. If you're at 100%, it would be, just constant light, no darkness, no thoughts in the moment. But so I guess there's a difference between frequency and vibration, but I do remember specifically on a CLS show speaking about you can never raise your vibration. What you are doing is getting back to 100% spirit, the way you were as a baby. So you're not raising your vibration. You don't have to do spiritual growth. You don't have to read more books. You don't have to do more research. You don't have to gain more knowledge from outside yourself. What you really want to do is let it all go, is remove it from your genetic cellular memory, and get back to that childlike innocence, be as children, without being hooked up to mind energy. So increase your frequency and invite more of your spirit back inside. You want to live from the heart in the now. So things that grow your spirit: inner peace, sunlight, warmth, pure oxygen and nature, health and vitality, pure diet and nutrition, lightness of being, cleanliness, simplicity, moderate exercise and movement. And that's a big thing for me. I used to overdo it, trying to do P90X, trying to get ripped. That was always trying to get somewhere instead of understanding that we're creating somewhere. We're not, and that's part of the problem, is trying to get somewhere, trying to get to the next thing, to get to retirement, to get to this, to get to that, to get to the weekend, to get to 5 o'clock. It's always to get somewhere instead of being a creator and realize that we're creating somewhere. But I hurt myself so many times doing exercises throughout my lower back, messed up the discs, torn rotator cuff, broken wrists, all from working out, trying to get buff for the summer, trying to do P90X in 3 months when I was, it takes years and years to get in proper shape, and you should start very lightly. I would start with walking. Start with walking, riding your bike, doing light yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong. I started doing Qigong and a little bit of Tai Chi. I'm sticking with Qigong right now, but that's moderate exercise, and I'm loving it. And you're present in the moment. You're not muscling through it. It's actually like a reward. I can't wait to do Tai Chi. Usually people aren't really too excited to work out unless they're looking for that like dopamine hit or whatever, all the, the feel good chemicals that are going to put you on a high, and then you're going to go through the low as well. But like the Qigong is to just, a lot of it's just body movement, flowing exercises, releasing energy, like, doing different types of energetic releases. But it's very moderate. Having fun and playfulness, I turn it into like dance and having fun flowing, listening to good meditation music or electronic dance music, because as some of you know, I used to DJ and produce music, so I love dancing. Peace and harmony, warm, gentle, nurturing environments, enjoyable occupation, kindness, awareness, truth and awakening, loving, peaceful, supportive people, warm liquids, warm bath water or warm water and baths, etc., however you say that, warm food, creativity, excitement for life, and freedom. So all those things, a lot of those things, aside from maybe freedom, are things that we can, we're gonna have to speak to the old government about that one, eh? A lot of those things don't cost anything. Inner peace, you can cultivate that immediately, do the mind to heart drop. Sunlight, well, maybe not right now because it's nighttime. Warmth, grab a blankie, pure oxygen, nature. Hopefully you've got some of that close by, and if you don't, you can go find it. I go for, I don't live too much in the big, I don't live in as big a city as I used to. I still do live in the city, but it's very kind of sheltered here with some really nice big, like 70-foot trees, around, which I like. But there's little patches of nature. It's still, it's not a big city, but it's not a small town. So I do have to go kind of find quiet places, but go for a walk every day. That's part of health and vitality, lightness of being, and enjoying nature, and and um, and so that's a that's the list. And creativity. I always say you were created to be creative, and we can do anything creatively. And so a lot of times you may go through, when you start maybe having an awakening or growing more light into you, you may not change what you do. You may just change how you do it. Do it in a sacred manner, in a flowing, creative manner, just that graceful, almost, just, yeah, I guess graceful is the word, right? So a calm, graceful way, rather than robotic. So a lot of times when you go through these types of things, and you have these spiritual, I won't say growth, but releases, and getting back your spirit back into you, and that remembering of who and what we are, and that's made of light, and getting back to that, you really start approaching life differently. So like I was saying, I don't know if I said on this show, I started sweeping instead of vacuuming, and I used to loathe sweeping. I didn't even, and now it's like, it's an art. I enjoy sweeping. It's like majestic. It's like painting, but with no no paint, just using the brush. And so you start, yeah, that's all I can say, is that sometimes what we do doesn't change, just how we do it. So you don't have to, just because some people think, oh, spirituality, spirituality can show up in work clothes, and it doesn't matter if you're a king or a chimney sweeper. That's what it is, the sameness of bearing in front of all beings. No hierarchy, nobody's more important, bigger than, less than. That's all fucking bullshit from the old world. That's all hierarchy, identity, mind energy, control, governance. All that stuff's going away. Believe me, it's going away, and we have to do our part to choose what we prefer. And so there's a little quote here at the end, in red: "To shine your brightest light is to be who you truly are." And Roy T. Bennett. I'm not sure who he is, but I like that fucking quote. And then a little special thanks to Ron, Amatron, and Q. I've learned a lot. And so, yeah, that's a lot of that information from there is from them. And the CLS website, an amazing, amazing resource. Especially, I have to point out, and I will put those links down below, especially the radio archives. There's literally, like, even more years than that, but since 2008, Ron was doing 4 shows a week, which is insane to do 4 hours of radio a week. He put so much energy into it, and all for the help of healing people. And so go into those archives, listen to them. They're very, very valuable, I don't know, one of those words, priceless resource, literally priceless. And there's just a lot of awesome content in there, a lot of awesome clearings you're going to start seeing as they were for me. That's why I started listening to this with more intent, is that I started noticing, like, some of these sample clearings seem to be working. Some certain things, and I think I might have shared some of them on certain episodes, but I can't remember now. It's like I can't remember if they're on other people's radio or podcasts that I talk about, or on this one. So maybe I'll have to share some. And there's nothing wrong with hearing things a second time, because some of these things, like his show was basically the same thing for 10 years, 4 hours. Go within, all of it was based around getting more of your spirit back into your body, calling your spirit back from all your traumas, thoughts, beliefs, judgments of all your ancestors. So clearing your DNA, clearing your genetic cellular memory, whether you're doing it through commands or the CLS website. There's just certain things that we can't do ourselves, because we're just so dense, and your belief system won't allow it. And so your belief system isn't necessarily what you believe in this lifetime, even though you might have different beliefs than your ancestors. Your true belief system is their thoughts, beliefs, everything that they experience that's recorded in their genetic cellular memory, and their DNA is passed on to you. So a lot of that, you hear that mental chatter in the back of your head when you want to do something, the mind chatter, that's your DNA, your ancestral DNA talking, not source energy, because source energy is peace in the present moment. There's no language, there's no communication. It's just peace. And that's the state we want to attain all the time. And I'm working on it. I'm working on it. It's tough doing the mind to heart drop. I remind myself, I call myself out loud. Like if I feel myself drifting, even thinking in the shower, thinking about 5 minutes ahead of, what am I going to do on the show, on Sunshine show today or whatever. That's still not in the present moment. You want to be present in the moment and like really be there, washing your body, like washing it. I used the example a while ago and I did it on a short this week. What if today was your last day to be alive? What if you knew that tonight you were going to go to sleep and you were never going to wake up, or use tomorrow, so for example, so you have the full day? And so I thought about that, and I thought about, well, what would you do? And so my envision of it is like I always thought as a kid, well, if it was your last day alive, it's like that movie Richie Rich. You got $1 million, like, go do all these crazy things. Well, I'd have to go skydiving, I'd have to do all this, and I have to do all that. And then you'd be telling people that it was your last day, and then people would be worried, well, what are you going to do? What are you talking about? It's your last day. And it would just cause this chaos. So what if you knew that you were going to die tomorrow night when you went to bed, peaceful in your sleep, nothing bad, but you just knew that that was the time? How would your day look? Maybe it wouldn't look any different. Maybe it would just be slower. Maybe you would just have more like reverent fucking gratitude for the life that you have. And instead of judging it, just seeing it in divine perfection, because that's how Source sees you. That's how light sees you, because they gave you free will, free choice. Judgment comes from dark side energies. God, thy will be done. That's dark side. God and the devil, they're both the players at the chessboard, and Source is animating them, and it's what they choose to do with it. And they're both in duality. So God and the devil, they're the same energies. It doesn't make a difference. There's no distinguishing good and bad. It's not peace energy. And so I hope I'm explaining that right. Sometimes when I'm talking, I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly to everybody in a way that you'll understand. But so how would you live that day? Maybe you would just wake up, and maybe you'd stay in bed without anxiety and just take a deep breath and lay under the warm blankets. And maybe, if you have a partner, maybe you would just hug them a little bit tighter, a little bit longer. Maybe you would want to make them breakfast. Maybe you would take the time, instead of rushing through making your coffee as a robotic routine. Maybe you would do it like it's an art, like it's the first and last time you're going to be doing it, because it is. Maybe you wouldn't do anything differently. You wouldn't tell people it's going to be your last day, because you wouldn't want them to worry. Maybe you just call the people you love and just tell them how much you love them, and say thank you for, in everything you've ever done. Thank you for just being perfect. See perfection in everything. And I've mentioned before that I think that's what true mastery is coming to see everything as perfection and not wanting to change anyone or anything, because that would mean that you know better than the divine what they should be doing or what their life should be like. And that's not true. That's darkness. That's mind energy. That's manipulation. And so we need to reel in our psychic energetic cords and our mental psychic energy from thinking we know what better for people. And that, just leave people be. See them as perfect, and don't even if they're telling you something that you don't agree with, you don't even have to respond. You can just be like, well, that's how that person feels. And so, I used to always be like, people telling me stuff and your mind's going, you're judging, you're thinking about what you got to say. You don't have to say anything. You could just say that's perfect and see them in perfection, because wanting them to be different, you have to realize that they were a program. Everything that they ran through their natal barcode, their entire life experience is a program. And all of us, that's how the dark side ran this universe. It used to be one of light, but it's not. We didn't really have free will, free choice on this planet because of all the mind control. And that's another episode I haven't done yet. I'm going to do the natal barcode and your life path and all that stuff, and why you don't have free will, free choice, but you can. But so, when you see everything in perfection on that last day, and you can just live it perfectly in a peaceful, calm, graceful confidence, and do everything in a sacred manner, wouldn't that be amazing? And just see the miracle in everything, and love everybody where they are, as they are, how they are. And that's important, because if you look at them as their program and that's what they're running at the time, they couldn't be any more perfect than they are. And it becomes beautiful, and almost like, I try not to get in my emotions, but I'm starting to see the world like that, instead of being like, oh, I wish my mom was different, or I wish my brother was different, or I wish that, that just see everything in perfection. The person at the end of the street, they leave their lawn chair out and it pisses me off. It's perfect. That shitty car at the end of the road, it's the perfect shitty car. That car couldn't be shittier, and I'm grateful that it's that shitty car, because you know what? It wouldn't exist otherwise, and I love it. It's perfect the way it is. And so when you start seeing things like that and you start seeing the perfection in everybody, it's great, because a lot of times we think, oh, growing up, if we had this or if we had that or if my parents did this, or we just compare so much in duality to the outside, and it's just our minds constantly going all the time. When we just see everybody in perfection, it makes life so beautiful. And I was speaking with people and trying to explain to them, it's like you wouldn't, and if you understand that everybody's just running a program and they're doing the best that they can with what they've got at the time, and if they're just running a program, and when you understand that, it's easier. So it's like I don't get mad at the calendar or computer program on my computer because it doesn't do my taxes. That would be stupid. It's not running that program. It's just doing what it's supposed to do based on what it's done in its past, what it was programmed to do. And when you see a programmed reality that we've lived in for so long like that, then you see everybody in perfection. They can't be any different than they are. And in the future, maybe they will be. Maybe you're the seed, you're the light that's going to shine that inner awakening and help them get out of that pattern, that conditioned pattern and response, help them escape the matrix. And maybe not everybody's meant to escape. I don't know. Maybe, there's all possibilities. So just allow free will to everybody, so that way others will allow it to you. And if you allow, there will be allowance. It will be returned to you. And I believe that. So everything's available for us in the now moment. And so when we stop creating those DNA restrictions with our thoughts and limiting the path where we want to go based on our thinking, and learning to communicate with our spirit, man, it's not easy all the time because we've been mind controlled and conditioned from the mind for so long that we're not used to it. We're not used to it. It takes a lot of work. So I'm going to stop the share there. Oh, my hair. I have I had a toque on. How is my hair? I can't really see. Anyways, I think I'm going to wrap this one up there, because who knows how long it's been. I forgot to set my timer, but I think it's been quite a long enough episode as it were at this point. And so I just want to say thank you once again to everybody so much for tuning in. Thank you to Sunshine for having me on her show, and she said she's watched 5 episodes of mine, and she's asking people or sharing it with her audience. And so I hope people really do gain value from this foundational healing series. And I'm trying to do it in a sequential order. So if you're going to share it with somebody, please share the playlist. It's in a playlist. You have to go into my channel. It's not in the videos per se. They show up on the most recents, but there is a playlist, and I think it's in sequential order. So if you want to share it with somebody to introduce them to this type of material, I try to go in a sequential, easily digestible manner from the beginning. So it's not like talking about ghosts in the first episode. I don't want to push people away or make them think it's crazy. I really go through, I think, probably quite a few episodes before I start talking to the more spiritual side of things. But so it should be easily accessible for somebody. So maybe somebody who's battling with addictions, going through loss. It doesn't matter if it's job, loved one, anything like that. Any tough time recovering from what's been going on. Financial. The past few years hasn't been easy on a lot of us because of what went on in the early. I don't know if I get flagged for using that word, but we all know what that means. We all know what everybody was doing a few years ago, and how it affected our finances, our work, our mental and physical and spiritual health, and our familial relationships. But here we are. And so, as I mentioned, please reach out. And I'm gonna, if I don't, I'm trying to think if I have a separate email rather than my primary email created that I could share down below. Yeah, I think I do. I'll share a new email with you guys that'll be specifically for questions regarding this show, or comments or anything that you want to share, or stories, cool things like that. I don't mind sharing stories. It's how we makes it more relatable to people, right? Because it makes it real. So As always, I really appreciate you projecting me into your reality, and I hope this video was of value and fun and entertaining, and maybe in some way you can command your spirit back to you, and maybe some way that this show helps you do that. That's the most important thing we can do in this lifetime, is get more of our spirit back into our bodies so we can get the fuck out of here and not be reincarnated and get stuck in a dark side universe again. Because nobody wants that, and if they do, that's fine too. All possibilities, and everybody's at different points in their creation. Some people want to choose darkness, and it's a choice. We always have the choice. Every choice is light or dark. Are we here present in the moment, or are we off in fantasy land, dreamland, daydreaming? Because you're not really home if you're doing that. So I don't know. I'm kind of just learning all this stuff the past few years too, what it really truly means. Because there's a huge dark side to spirituality, and I'm going to get, as I get further along in these episodes on my journey, I'm going to get into the dark side of spirituality. Because I used to think, well, like religion was the darkness, and spiritual, like being spiritual, like just, but there's a really dark side to spirituality, maybe even darker than religion, or they're kind of probably both intertwined. But yeah, there's a lot of people out there thinking they're spiritual, and those people are just as bad as dark side practitioners, as people praying for you. Haven't talked about dark side practitioners too much, but praying for people, thinking about people, sending people vibes, that's all psychic attack energy, and it's just as bad as negative vibes. We really don't want to be thinking about others or sending them any kind of energy. Just knowing that, if anything, teach them commands to get more of their spirit back, and trust that the divinity within them has the answers. The same answers within you. Trust that source energy within them has the answers for them. And just know that through your spirit, maybe ask your spirit, if anything, say, command, do a mind to heart drop, be in peace energy, and command your spirit to speak to their spirit and bring them into peace. Because that's where, even the CLS clearings, they can't do anything for you really. What they do is take stuff away. They take away your pain, your trauma, your emotional charges, your mind looping. So peace, it's not going to make you a millionaire. It's going to make you peaceful. And maybe the right things will show up, or you'll see the right opportunities, or have the spiritual fortitude and horsepower to create what you want to create, rather than doubt yourself and beat yourself up and into submission before you even start, like I did for the past few years. Because when my life flipped upside down, it was really difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Although that might not be the best analogy to use, but it was a really dark time. Maybe what some people call the dark night of the soul. Anyways, I forgot where I was, but I'm gonna cut it off here. Thank you for joining me. I don't know what I'm gonna talk about next week. I haven't decided. Sometimes I like to just show up, and we'll see. But I'm gonna start doing these weekly as well, because I'm motivated again, and I've been doing the show with Sunshine the past 3 weeks, and so that really got me okay, like kick it up into high gear, and to know that people are watching these episodes, and I really appreciate it. So that's what keeps me going, and I appreciate it. Anyways, wishing you guys peace and lots of commanding your spirit back to you, and I appreciate it as always. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.